Welcome, 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 welcome. Just admitting everyone in. Um, Welcome to our Wednesday night Compassion Sangha. It's 8:00. Thank you for being on time. It's so wonderful to see you. We have been going over such global topics lately, with last week timelessness, this week imperfection, how to approach imperfection. We really are tackling all the really big ideas. Um, So congratulations on that. Let's officially start our session with the sound of a bell. Wonderful. And let's do our wonderful little wave hello. So just as an act of compassion, as a greeting, just saying hello to each other, just looking at each other and maybe sending some may you be happy and a gentle smile. And oh, you have beautiful smiles. You have such beautiful smiles and such beautiful waves. Thank you. Thank you so much. That just makes my day too. So again, welcome to this 25 to 30-minute class in guided meditation, although I try to keep it at 25. And just thank you for choosing to be here, choosing to meditate when you can be doing so many things on a Wednesday night other than contemplating the meaning of life and complicated Buddhist philosophy and doing guided meditations that stretch your self-compassion and compassion for others. So I just want to congratulate you on doing that. And as I mentioned, today we'll talk about imperfection, the wisdom of imperfection, and kindness toward imperfection. The Japanese tea ceremony comes from the Zen Buddhist tradition. And the founder of the tea ceremony hundreds of years ago had an assistant who prepared the tea, cleaned up the cherry blossoms, cleaned up the garden. And as this teacher went to start the first tea ceremony, he took the cherry tree and started shaking it, and only when kind of blossoms fell all over the place and blossoms fell in his teacup, he said, now that's beauty. Now that's what I like. Now it's alive. He didn't allow the tea ceremony to be perfectly structured and perfectly a certain way. And when he was looking for a cup, he picked the cup with the crack and said, this is the cup I want to use for our Zen Buddhist tea ceremony. And such a simple story, but there is so much wisdom in that. So, what comes up for you? And let's be honest, because I mean, you know that based on the story that we'll probably be working to process imperfections, but just as a baseline to check our instincts, what comes up for you when you hear the word imperfection? I'd love to hear in the see in the chat from as many of you as possible. What comes up for you when you hear the word imperfection? Try harder. Thank you, Addie, for that honesty. Try harder. When you hear imperfection, try harder. Failure. Thank you, Michelle Green, our professor of neuroscience that's joining us here. Not good enough. Ilana, thank you. Exactly. Failure, try harder, not good enough. These are the attitudes we'll be working with. And working with them can take years, but it's so worthwhile for our happiness and so worthwhile for our sense of ease in the world and our ability to connect to the world. Molly, uniqueness. Exactly. So that's kind of what we're moving toward. Elizabeth Berry, getting fired. Yeah, I'm not perfect. I'm getting fired. This is so Western, but what we'll talk about, this is actually modern Western. This is not ancient Western. Perfection was never an ideal, for example, in ancient Greece, ancient Rome. This is modern Western culture. Masha, defective. Yes. You hear imperfection, you think, oh, defective. Exactly. Others, someone else, Colleen put defective, broken, inadequacy. My way of life. Thank you, Ed. When you hear imperfection, you think my way of life. Sarah, impatience with myself and others. Same mechanism, like compassion, self-compassion, blaming yourself, blaming others. Once you demand perfection of yourself, that same oppressiveness, that kind of semi-violent energy will be directed towards others. Even though in our minds it's always for some greater good, but imposing perfection is a kind of violence that we impose on others. Anastasia, loss of control or lack of control. Yes, thank you. And I see some of you are saying other things like you see imperfection and that's comfort, less pressure on me. And that's wonderful. That's another way to put it, like less pressure, because there's imperfection or personality. Authenticity comes from imperfection, right? Authenticity comes from imperfection. So thank you for your variety of responses. I so much appreciate when you participate, just to hear your personalities, your voices. Wonderful. So the most typical response, I think, our time is I need to be perfect. One phrase really struck me from Cornel West. He was a professor at mine at Harvard Divinity School, but he's also just a African American leading thinker and is always in the news. But Cornel West used to say, without imperfection, you or I wouldn't exist. Without imperfection, you or I wouldn't exist. And that was a very healing thing for me to hear as well, because I probably spent more than half of my life as a very, very strong perfectionist. So this is my journey as well. Salvador Dali made a similar point, but from the other end. Have no fear of perfection. You'll never reach it. And from a top artist, that's funny. But again, the same point, without imperfection, you or I wouldn't exist. Have no fear of perfection. You'll never reach it. So the very, very big picture I want to introduce here, the framework, is that wanting perfection is a kind of resistance to reality. Wanting perfection is a resistance to reality. Resistance to reality is suffering. Resistance to reality brings about suffering. Kindness to all things as they are practiced today, that takes out the resistance. So that's what we'll be practicing. So let's start with what is perfection. It's an ideal that's imagined by the mind. Perfection is something the mind creates. It's not something that can really exist in nature. In nature, a lot of imperfections can make up something like perfection. But if you look at in nature, no two snowflakes are alike. Each snowflake is perfect, but you can also call each snowflake imperfect because there's billions of variations on the snowflake. Yet each snowflake is perfect for its own journey, right? To make the journey from the sky to the earth, it has the perfect form for that. So each snowflake is different. No snowflake maybe would be perfect in the sense that the mind would imagine it, would want it to be perfect. So perfection is like a flavor that's not found in nature, like an artificial flavor that can only be imagined. And wanting perfection is something like a kind of neurosis, like strong anxiety is a kind of neurosis. Wanting, demanding perfection all the time can be a kind of neurosis because it's something the mind creates. It's not something that exists. And I like to tie everything back to ancient Buddhist teachings. Nagarjuna is one of the most important Buddhist philosophers from the 2nd century. I like to show you pictures of these people so you have a little bit of a sense of them. But he was a teacher of Mahayana Buddhism. So let me share just for a moment. This is a statue of Nagarjuna, considered a holy teacher. Okay. So he made this very similar point when his students of meditation told him that they are practicing to reach perfection or enlightenment, which is nirvana. He got very worried when he heard that they're meditating so they can leave the imperfect world that is samsara, kind of the cycle of birth and death, to reach perfection or nirvana. His reply was, nothing of samsara is different from nirvana. Nothing of nirvana is different from samsara. What he said changes is your mind state. The two are not actually different. What's different is your perception. The difference between enlightenment, bliss, and kind of this world suffering is what exists in your mind. So it's about your attitude, your practice, how you see the world. The two can actually be identical on the outside. They're just different for you. Whether you see a world of happiness and perfection or you see a world that's imperfect that you want to escape is something in your heart, something in your mind. So we talked a lot in the class on Saturday about blame, about non-duality, that the lotus comes from the mud, that enlightenment comes from human suffering, and they might be one and the same. This goes into Buddhist cosmology, which I think is very interesting. In Buddhism, you can die and be reborn in different realms. And there are the hell realms, like really bad karma, and then the human realms. And then you can be reborn as a demigod. And as a demigod, you are perfectly beautiful, perfectly symmetrical. You have very high vibrations. You kind of float around. Your experience is endless pleasure. And demigods don't suffer. Demigods don't have flaws. Demigods don't have any limitations, at least no human limitations. But what's interesting in Buddhist cosmology is that from that place of demigods, we cannot achieve enlightenment. From that place of no limitations, the ultimate growth isn't possible. And you stay a demigod for some limited amount of time that you choose. And then those demigods then choose to be reborn as a human being so that they can then reach enlightenment. And that's kind of the process. It's like this break that you get to take if you have very good karma. You get to like float around as a beautiful demigod. But then those demigods on their own come back to earth. So only from a place of limitations, from working from those limitations, working through those limitations, gravity, our own suffering, being with the suffering of others, only from there in Buddhism we can achieve enlightenment or nirvana. So same idea as the lotus and the mud. Another way to look at this is all polishing is done by friction. If you have all smooth edges, you can't really polish. So same idea as enlightenment. So we get this amazing practice of being compassionate toward an imperfect being all the time who is ourself. And that's the ultimate compassion practice that we get to do moment to moment, day to day, year to year. We change. So this changes, kind of how you show compassion to yourself changes because we change all the time. And this is a way of connecting to reality as it is, because we are reality. We are a part and expression of reality. So if we connect to ourselves as we are, that's the practice. And maybe even not just connecting, but connecting with gratitude. Our first meditation practice today will be connecting to our breath, to reality, to ourselves with gratitude. So after that 10-minute introduction, let's relax a little bit and get into your comfortable seat and maybe check that you're muted. I think everyone is muted. And let's just connect to ourselves with gentleness as we do in this class. Maybe just stretch your arms up and to the side. And again, just the intention of gentleness to this body, gratitude to this body. You can sway like a tree just a little bit. And maybe take your fingers, we haven't done this one yet, and give yourself a little scalp massage. Just connection. Just maybe mess up your hair a little bit, dig in. Kind of circular motions with both hands if you can. Apply some pressure to your scalp. This brain that does so much work, imagining all these perfect realities, just relaxing that brain for a moment. And maybe do the same to the jaw. The more relaxed we are, the less we demand perfection. The more unhappy we are, the more we cling to perfection. And maybe trace your eyebrows to your jaw, such a nice line, eyebrows to jaw, or wherever feels good. And maybe just make some circles with the wrist to end. So much tension in even a little spot like the wrist, little fragile spot, but often so much tension. And when you're ready, putting one hand inside the other in your traditional meditation posture, and we will take one deep breath. Inhaling for 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhaling through the mouth for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And let's just take one deep unstructured breath. So just inhale as deeply as you can. And just release with a sigh, with a sound, releasing worries, releasing tensions, releasing expectations for yourself, for your practice, so you can just be present. And from there, letting your eyes stay closed and gently turning the gaze inward, finally excavating your inner space, settling into the stillness of the body and settling into the movement of the breath. Let your forehead be relaxed. Let your eyebrows be relaxed. Let your cheeks and jaw be soft. Let your neck be fully relaxed, your neck, your shoulders, and your belly and your hips. Letting the arms be heavy and soft. And letting the legs and the feet be still and fully relaxed. And now that you've arrived, just acknowledging yourself for being here, for taking the time to take care of yourself by meditating in a way only you can. No one else can do this for you. So offering gratitude to yourself for self-care. And noticing the breath more deeply. Feeling into the breath. Every in-breath a receiving. Every out-breath a giving. If you're holding anywhere in the body, just fully let that go. And just noticing the breath. The breath doesn't have to be any particular way. Your awareness doesn't have to be any particular way. Just feeling into the sensations of the breath as the breath enters and exits your body. Just returning that awareness to the breath. And observing your breath with gratitude. Saying thank you for this breath. Thank you for another moment of life. Thank you for this breath that gives me life, moment to moment. As you're breathing, as you're watching the breath, acknowledging this gift of life, this gift of the reality you find yourself in, this gift of breath. And you might place your hands on the belly just so that the hands can receive the breath. Opening to your breath with gratitude. Feeling the completeness, feeling the wholeness of each breath. And you can release those hands, and we will end with loving kindness. Sending the wish, may all beings all over the world be safe and protected. May all beings now asleep be safe and protected. May all the beings now meditating be safe and protected. And all the beings now awake, may they be safe and protected. May all beings find connection to this reality, connection to themselves, well-being, and joy. And ending with gratitude to yourself for connecting to the moment, connecting to your best intention. You will hear the sound of a bell, listen to its sound, and when you can no longer hear it, begin to open your eyes. So welcome back from your first meditation. I feel the energy is much calmer. As always, I like to ask how'd that go, and we'll meditate again soon, but how is that mode of connecting with gratitude? And it's nice just to have a pause between practices. Deep. Thank you, Elizabeth. It wasn't perfect, thank God. Thank you. Yeah, no practice is perfect. I think that's the first place you want perfection, is in your meditation practice. I think that's the first place to let go of any expectation of perfection. Gratitude that each breath is so simple and so rich, comforting, needed. Wonderful. So there is a kind of forcefulness to always wanting perfection. I think it was Seneca who said that whenever there is a person, there is an opportunity for kindness. And here we can add, whenever there is a person, there is imperfection and an opportunity for kindness. So again, we're given this body, which we will never find perfect, and our lives, which we can never really find perfect, and ourselves, so we can constantly support and care for an imperfect being. And once we can do that for ourselves, we can also do that for others and give them space and be a comforting, positive presence for others as well. It was Rumi who wrote, and Leonard Cohen later quoted this in a song, "Keep your eyes on the damaged places, because that is where the light enters you." Keep your eyes on the damaged places, because that is where the light enters you. So the places we find imperfect, maybe the parts that can lead to our growth the most, and that in turn can be parts we value most eventually. Lao Tzu, who's my second favorite thinker after the Buddha, said that perfection is the willingness to be imperfect. So kind of, I think a healthy attitude is, this is Suzuki Roshi, you're perfect just as you are, and there's always room for growth. You're perfect as you are, and there's always room for growth. So kind of holding both opposites there. You can always have intentions or practice, cultivate, grow, but at the same time, not expecting perfection. So in that spirit, let's do our second practice. Meditation on imperfection. So closing your eyes again, this space of openness, of willingness, of letting things be as they are. With your eyes closed, start by connecting to your breath. Each breath with its own rhythm. Each breath different from the last and valuable in its own way. Staying with the breath for a moment, honoring the breath. And now think back to something that you usually find imperfect about yourself. And instead of going into that story, instead feel the pain of that judgment. Begin to feel that oppressiveness of that perception. And notice that perhaps that's the place that needs your compassion the most. That's the place where the light of self-compassion can enter. So go ahead and put your hands on your heart, saying for yourself, I care for myself just as I am. I support myself in each moment and in this moment, just as I am. I choose to be kind to myself in every moment. To love someone is to release them from judgment. I choose to release myself from judgment. And keeping your face relaxed, connect to your beating heart. That wonderful beating heart just at your chest. And acknowledging that you, as you exist, are part of reality. As you exist, you're part of nature. Saying for yourself, I connect myself. I connect to myself just as I am. I let myself be human, and I welcome my full humanness. I choose to free myself from any tyranny of perfection. I grow as a gift to myself, not out of fear of imperfection. And you can release the hands back down if that feels good, but we'll end by sending ourselves some wishes. May I keep myself safe and protected. Just feeling into that intention. May I keep myself inside, safe and protected. May I give myself space to learn and grow. May I be open to myself just as I am in each moment. And may I be open to all other beings, just as they are in each moment. And just noticing how that feels. These intentions, these wishes. And ending by dedicating your practice to the flourishing and freedom from suffering of all beings everywhere. So that was a small taste of working with perfection and imperfection in meditation. And these 30 minutes did fly by so quickly. It was wonderful to do this work with you. And thank you. So let's just end with a dedication that may all beings live in peace and harmony. And may we not add violence to this world, inside or outside. May our lives and our practice be nourishment for ourselves and the freedom of all beings everywhere. Freedom and perfection as being on two opposite ends of the spectrum. So maybe let's do our wave to end, saying goodbye. It was so nice to be in this space with you, and I hope you found this interesting or valuable. And if you like, just send a wish to the rest of the group. I'll read them out loud. If you want to send something like a wish, like may you be a spacious container for all the things that run through you. May you be kind to your imperfections. May everyone know peace. Oh, good, this is needed. May you love your imperfections, enjoy your freedom. May you allow yourself your freedom. Once you allow yourself to not be perfect, you allow yourself freedom. Thank you. And thank you so much. And next week, we'll finally do something simple and traditional, like loving kindness for a loved one, which is also a deep practice, because we really do oppress our loved ones quite a bit, or we tend to, our minds do. But we will come back to standard 25-minute, mostly meditation with less philosophy. But I kind of go back and forth in these. May you accept yourself as you are. May you be imperfectly perfect. Wonderful. Such lovely wish. May you dwell in your heart. May you find joy in yourself and others where you are, where they are. May you be happy for being you. Thank you. And I can't wait to see you next week. May you truly be well. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
Elizabeth.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Well.
Hi, thank you.
Bye, everyone. Good night.
Sleep well, sweet dreams.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye, Diane.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth.
Thank you. It's so nice to hear
Everyone.
your voices. Bye, Delphine. Bye, Lily. Bye, Diane. Bye, Rochelle.
Bye. Bye, Elizabeth.
Andrea. Bye, Melanie.
Bye, Elizabeth.